Yeah. So what were some of the initial changes that you made that you saw, wait a minute, here's a bottleneck. First off, how'd you identify here's a bottleneck? And then what were some of the first tweaks?
So my story here at the store goes, we tweaked everything at the same time. So so that goes back to that I'm that weird guy, right? I don't fall into any category. Um, but no, there were a few things here and there. I mean, one of the very first things we did is we were a paper-based sync program, and we realized with Pioneer, we are not utilizing this program, and so we went completely sync all the way through Pioneer. No paper, no trails, no nothing. So that was the first big one. So we transitioned that. And then the way that I did it is I went out, I talked to friends of mine at Pioneer shows, at other trade shows that I knew were just killing it. They were great pharmacists, had great stores, and I would ask them, what are they doing? What do they like? What do they wish they can change? And then I would actually go to some of their stores. I would go to random independent pharmacies around here. I would just walk in. I'm in town. Oh, there's an independent. Let me stop in there for 10 minutes. And I would just stare at them and see what they were doing. So that's always been a funny story. Everybody laughs because I'm just staring at these pharmacists and the techs, and they're like, what is this guy doing? And eventually they would ask, and I'd say, I own a store. I'm watching your workflow. I'm seeing what you guys are doing good. And they kind of enjoyed that. And we'd start talking back and forth. So I started picking up little pieces here and there that what everybody was doing. And I sit down and over a time period, I compiled it all together with data. And we started putting a lot of data, numbers, who's doing this, why are we doing this? So it was a process, little bitty. That was probably the biggest tweak that we did before we actually just flipped the switch. And I'm not saying that's the way to do it, but that's just how we were rolling that day. So
Yeah, it is neat. Over the years as an installer, going into so many pharmacies, there can be such a different vibe in the pharmacy based on their workflow. I've been to pharmacies that were just very kind of, just seemed like a very easygoing linear workflow. From one side of the room to the other. And then I've been to pharmacies that kind of had an island that, different color baskets would assemble and then web. And it was, everybody's like bumping into each other and moving around and it's chaos. But, it looked like an I Love Lucy episode.
there was a friend of mine in Tennessee. He had one that was a big island in the middle, and they just did a circle around the island. Everything
Yeah.
was a circle around the island. And, it worked for them, but eventually you could tell that there was frustration. It just wasn't a really good workflow overall. So,
Yeah. I remember years ago before we had the print queue available, just how much time you would see people spend sorting through patient education and labels and reassembling one patient's orders while you have four people sending in labels and everything else. So
we were talking yesterday. It wasn't that long ago. We would print the label out and set it down, and then the tech would go get the bottle and fill it and sit it on the label, and the pharmacist would check, everything was on the island or wherever it was, and you would just check it then versus in Pioneer or in whatever system they had. And it seems, in my mind, it seems forever ago. And it really wasn't that long ago that we were just doing these very mundane, old school ways of pharmacy. I couldn't imagine going back to that stuff.